All right, we're live.
Oh, we're live.
Okay, I will call to order the October 15th, 2024 meeting of the Long Lake City Council. It is 6:30 p.m. All council members are present this evening. As item number 2, we will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good evening, everyone. Item 3 tonight is mayor's comments, which includes Long Lake news, meeting reviews, and updates. So a few updates tonight. Number 1 is we had a fire department open house last Monday evening on October 7th at Long Lake Fire Department. That was a great event, well attended, a lot of community members there. Annual event, a lot of fire departments do that this time of the year. So great to see a great turnout for that. Our firefighters put a lot of work into that event, staging it and planning it and executing the event. So that was great. We also had a special visit from Chief Chip Lowmiller of the Cross Lake Fire Department, which is about 3 hours away for those of you who aren't familiar with that. He came all the way down with a kind of a training device to help train the firefighters and show demonstration on how to put out a car fire. So that was kind of neat to see that. Hadn't personally seen that myself before. So thank you to the Long Lake Fire Department for all the effort you put into that event. Great community turnout for that. I know several council members were there as well. And then next item is we had a bit of a architectural find here within the last week or so in the city of Long Lake that I wanted to highlight. If I can share my screen here, and Jeanette's going to do her thing there. We'll see if that works. So far, no.
Hit your white, that button, is it green?
It's kind of a greenish color.
Yep, there you go. Need to push it.
Push it
There you
in.
go.
There you go. That's more of a green now. All right, let's see if this works. Let's see if. All right, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is in the side of the Long Lake Dental Building, which is, for those who don't know, in between the Long Lake Veterinary Clinic and that kind of opening that you can walk in between the two buildings. And I will let our city clerk, Jeanette, kind of take it from here and describe more about how this came to be and the origins of it and that sort of thing.
Well, in short, a very nice young gentleman had come in to pull a building permit to remove the stucco on the Long Lake Dental Building and replace it with a nice, board and batten siding. And the day after he got the building permit, he came in the next morning and said, well, I might have opened up a rat's nest. And told us that he had found this mural that appeared to be very 1950s, and to his credit, he was immediately in research mode. And I know he had spoken to, I think it was Dr. McNaught already, to see if there were photos of that they may have from the building's history. I kind of helped him in some resources trying to connect him with the Pioneer Museum. And yesterday, I spoke with Bob Gash from the museum. Wonderful, wonderful guy with just chock full of history. He's going to be bringing in some information to City Hall tomorrow that we'll be able to share with the contractor and Dr. McNaught, of course. But he said that, so we all knew I had been able to learn fairly quickly that there was a Ted's Pharmacy there in the 50s and up maybe into the 70s. But what we didn't know is that this billboard of sorts did not come from Ted's Pharmacy. It came from the pharmacy that preceded that. Long Lake Pharmacy was here from, I believe it was 1948 to 1956. It was owned by Bob Connolly, and he also owned a pharmacy in Wayzata. And so he had this on display. Rock Spring Bottling Company was actually a local bottling company based out of Shakopee. And this was covered up when Ted bought the pharmacy, and he's the one who put the stucco on and covered it up. But it sounds like, from what I understand, their intention is to cover this up with some clear, protect it, and frame it up, and keep this little bit of history on display.
Awesome.
So, I think that's wonderful. And yes, I realize it does say drugs loud and clear. But it is such a delightful snapshot of history, and I'm excited that we get to learn a little more about it. And how great is the Pioneer Museum for having that information for us?
Does it extend farther to the right or not?
I don't know the answer to that. The contractor didn't mention it going any further. What we see now is what we know, but he said he was shocked when he had opened it up and there was this very well preserved mural underneath. And that immediately became something that was a priority for him, which I thought was pretty cool. So, yeah.
That's terrific. Thank you for the explanation on that. I know there's a lot of excitement when this is uncovered on with Thursday or Friday, and it's neat to see something like that. So, ironically, I was telling Jeanette, from my father-in-law, like 25 years ago, gave me a brand new bottle opener that was still in the box, and I put it on I got it installed on my porch for opening up bottles, and it's Rock Spring. I'd never. This is now the second time I've heard of Rock Spring. I didn't even know. I imagine it went out of business years ago.
I would
But
guess.
it's weird that I got a matching bottle opener in my house. So.
They had too much zing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that's really neat. Thanks for the explanation on that and bringing that forward. And then the other thing I want to do is play a video. So this video was released about a month ago by the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, who of course films our videos, our city council meetings as well. And this is Utopic Tales, Long Lake, Minnesota. Author Liz Olson, who as many know used to be a Long Lake City Council member, and she does a lot of work into researching history in Long Lake, and she wrote a book about it that I know all of us received a few months ago. And now there's kind of a matching video regarding this, or her work. So I just thought we'd watch this real quick.
I am Liz Olson, author of the book Utopic Tales. It's the story of Long Lake, Minnesota, and we are here today at the Pioneer Museum to talk about our history, the people that developed our community, and all the wonderful stories. I wrote this book because I wanted to honor my family, I wanted to honor my community, I wanted to honor Earl Nelson, who donated the land that went to become Nelson Beach. You know, most people don't know that, and it gets lost in time, and no one knows why it's Nelson Beach. He operated cabins along the lake. He wound up buying the hotel after my great-grandpa died, and I wanted to honor him. I've been living in Long Lake for the past 30 years. I am at the home that my great-grandfather purchased in 1892. At the very beginning, I just got involved with the Long Lake community. Through the 90s, I was on the board at the museum, and I did lots of programs with Orono Community Ed. We are here today at the Pioneer Museum, which is the old schoolhouse for the Long Lake community. The museum is just a nice focal point for the town. All of the old settlers and the townspeople gave all of their belongings to create this museum. They started out at the basement of the bank building in the early 1900s, and they collected all of the artifacts, and they had so many things. When the opportunity to buy the school came up, they bought it and developed this wonderful museum that we're sitting in here today. This is the book I have written. I was doing family research. My nephew was interested in who we are and where we came from, and so I started doing research, thought I'd do a little 3-page paper about Long Lake, and then I decided, well, maybe I should do Long Lake and family book and put it all together, which is where this came from. And on the cover here is my great-aunt Olive sitting with a cow in what is now the parking lot at One Stop Auto on Mill Street. It is kind of a utopia. You know, there aren't a lot of towns that have buffalo roaming the streets or sea monsters coming out of the water. Exact replica, I think. And it's all true. There are curious tales here. Though, if you look into any town, you're going to find it. Every town has creative souls that add to the community and make it what it is. I think it's colorful stories, and it's my home, and I wanted to say thank you to all of the community members that helped create this world that we live in. I love this town, and I'm so happy to be able to share it with people.
Great. So thanks that's a great video, obviously. Thanks to the LMCC and Liz for her book, and I think that's available for sale at the Pioneer Museum, if not mistaken. It's not doesn't cost a fortune or anything, so encourage folks to go and buy that and read that. I learned a lot, learned about our city, reading the book myself, and some interesting stuff in there. So want to make sure everybody saw that and fully appreciated that video and the story behind it. Otherwise, meeting reviews, we did just finish a Economic Development Authority meeting before our council meeting, and the main topic there was our city-owned property at 1905 Wayzata Boulevard, which is the corner of Wayzata Boulevard and Lake Street. The Economic Development Authority owns that property. We heard two proposals from local businesses that wanted to develop there. And the Economic Development Authority voted to proceed with sort of negotiations, discussions with the Sundial Cafe, which is a cafe concept that would be on the corner there in a new building. A lot of work and discussions to come on that, but so far that's the direction that we're going in as an EDA to see what can be worked out there. So stay tuned for more information on that. And thanks to our EDA Chair Divik for work on that as well as staff. Okay, now we'll move on to item number 4, which is to approve tonight's agenda. Anyone want to make a motion on that?
Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second?
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is a consent agenda. Very brief consent agenda tonight, just items A and B. Any questions for staff on items on the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All right, thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 6, open correspondence. Open correspondence is an item on the agenda during which the public may address the city council. No formal action is taken by the city council, and comments shall be limited to 5 minutes or less. And open correspondence comments may also be emailed to city staff by 12 o'clock noon on the date of the meeting. Anyone wish to approach this evening for open correspondence? So please state your name and address.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Brian Miller, 295 Lakeview Avenue. I had a 600-page dissertation that I wrote, but I forgot it at home. I just want to say it's election season, and I want to thank Councilmember Feldman for running again. Your work has been invaluable here. And also to Mayor Minor, I want to thank him for running again. And I trust that since you're both running unopposed, I find it highly unlikely you'll lose to a write-in, but I want to thank you both for running again. I also want to thank Citizen Todd Newcomer for stepping up to run for council as well. I think he'll be a wonderful addition. I always refer to you as a retired firefighter, but I know you're more than that. I think his education will be invaluable on the council as well. I also want to thank Councilmember Joyce for her work. It's been invaluable as well, and I look forward to having an attorney, hedge fund brainiac, an engineer, a former, let me get it right, a firefighter, and a cop. Thanks for a great council. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, any others for open correspondence this evening?
Hello, thank you for letting me come and speak. I'm Jacqueline Ricks. I'm from 2108 Sugarwoods Drive in Orono. I want to introduce myself to the council as I am running for Orono City Council along with Steve Persian and Bob Thunheim. And you might have seen our signs around your city as well as ours. You guys have some nice thoroughways, so we've tried to take advantage of that. One of the reasons I was running or decided to run is because of the lack of civility that we've been accustomed to seeing in the meetings and in some of the behaviors of our mayor and some of the council members. Going along with that, I think I would also find it very valuable for us to reestablish our I just lost the word for it, to reestablish our commitment to our fellow communities and to make sure that we are working as a community, not just as separate cities. And I'm hoping that if I get elected, that we'll get to work together at some point and move things forward. So thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. All right, anyone else?
I know most of you. So, my name's Steve Persian, 1005 Hunt Farm Road in Orono, and I'm also running for Orono Council. And I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that, my priorities, I've made them pretty clear. My number one priority is the fire services. And I think that what's taking place with Orono spinning up its own independent Orono Fire Department is, it's nonsense. And I think it needs to be stopped with what they're doing, and I think that we need to reestablish and rebuild a relationship with Long Lake. And I think that Jacqueline, along with Bob and I, have the same mindset and the same goal with that. And so I'm also one that believes that we need to, as a council, be more kind to the citizens of Orono and to each other as a council, because what I've continued to see over a period of time is it's just simply not the right behavior that leaders take. There should certainly be differences of opinion, but there should also be mutual respect. And so the last thing I'll talk a little bit about is fiscal responsibility. I'm a firm believer that you need to invest in your community. That being said, I think you need to do it in a very open and transparent way. And I think that over the course of time, that's gone by the wayside in the city of Orono. So I just want to introduce myself in front of the council. I look forward to sitting down with you after we get elected, hopefully, as soon as we can, to really return to the table, talk about fire services in the short and long term, rebuild our relationship, and work together as one community while being two different cities. So that's it. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Steve. All right, anyone else? Any submitted comments tonight, Jeanette?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Okay, let's move on to item 7, regular business, starting with 7A, public hearing, certification of unpaid delinquent city utility accounts and services invoices for assessment and collection.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Annually, cities have the opportunity to certify delinquent utility accounts for collections with property taxes. Residents have been notified of this process in accordance to the Hennepin County requirements. A list of residents that were notified is included in your packet today. At this time, there is only one remaining unpaid utility account to be certified. I have not received any written objections or requests for appeal. As part of this process, we do need to formally open up a public hearing and invite any individuals listed on the assessment roll for comment. After the council holds a public hearing, there is a motion in your packet to adopt a resolution certifying this assessment.
All right, thank you, Amanda. All right, well, I will open up the public hearing for that at 6:48 p.m. Anyone wish to approach for this open hearing this evening? All right, didn't look like it, so I will close that at 6:48 p.m. And I guess one question I have is that so it's 304 Lakeview Avenue? Isn't that a apartment complex, or is that a single family?
Nope, it's actually a individually owned townhomes. One issue with this specific situation is it is single metered. The entire block of townhomes has one shut-off valve, and so we are not able to shut off certain homes that are designed that way, and so therefore the bill tends to just climb.
Okay.
So that is why you will see this individual on the certification, because we were not able to shut them off.
Interesting, okay. And then the other three that's on the subsequent page, those
They
have
have
been
been
taken
paid
care
in
of
full,
now?
correct, yep.
Okay, all right. Great. Any other questions for staff on that one?
It's not me.
If not, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-47 for the certification and collection of delinquent 2024 water and sewer utility service charges, recycling program fees, stormwater charges, and legal pass-through charges.
I can, oh, go ahead.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item 7B, receive third quarter 2024 revenues and expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is also my item. I will be presenting today the third quarter 2024 revenues and expenses as of September 30th, 2024. A few things that I would like to point out. Many bills we receive about a month ahead. In arrears. So not everything, numbers can change. So if you were to look at them again later, September can change if we receive extra bills in October that were for September. Year-end audits are completed for that as well. We'll do a lot of due to, due froms, accounts receivable, accounts payable transactions at that time for those type of bills. But I just like to make that a point because we are getting to the end of the year and we like to look at these numbers and see how we're doing as far as staying on track with everything. We're currently, each of our funds are currently at 54 to 82% of expenses. So I feel like we're doing a very good job. The 82% is our Fund 101. And the 54% of expenses is actually our fire department. So they have done a really good job this year of being very fiscally responsible. So I'm very happy about that. You'll also see that I once again included the fund balances as of September 30th, 2024. And so if you have any questions regarding those or any of the individual line items in your packet, I would be happy to answer those for you.
You know what, I know I didn't ask the question on the disbursements, but the playground equipment, I know that that was a little bit overrun, and I know that it's a number 11 on the list, and we're kind of in the negative balance on what we budgeted. Just,
May I ask what page you're looking at?
oh, it's page 4 of 7B. It's under
Yep,
parks. public-
correct. Actually, one thing that is this year for the parks,
Number 11, that's the playground safety servicing.
yep, that's gonna be the safety servicing that we did. So what Public Works did this year is they replaced a lot of the playground surfacing. And that wasn't, it wasn't budgeted as highly as we could have, but
So wood chip replacement.
yes.
Okay. And then we got some new playground equipment.
Yes, actually, to speak on that, looking into that a little bit, we have replaced a merry-go-round over at Nelson Lakeside
Okay.
Park. But in research, I found that we could actually use our gambling proceeds for that.
Oh,
That's a
that's-
separate fund, and it's extremely restricted on what that can be used for. The merry-go-round did qualify for that, and so that was actually purchased outside of parks in 101 and purchased out of those gambling proceeds.
I think we talked about that, and I had forgotten.
No, that's
So-
okay. Yes,
So good
that-
job.
Yes, we were very excited that we were able to replace that with those.
Natural Association of Gambling. and Merry-Go-Round.
I agree.
Gambling like a merry-go-round.
I saw on the first page, there was a 112 capital fund. Is that related to the, because I know there was some county stuff, like 7-year-old bills.
This is gonna be
this
phase,
different?
that is not included in this. We have not made a payment to that. We are waiting until they can actually give us factual data showing that money's still owed. This is our portion of phase 3. The reason that account is negative right now is because the auditors actually closed out the CASA 112 project and distributed it into other funds when we were done with phase 2. We knew there would be a little bit for phase 3, but, so I'm going to leave that negative to draw their attention so that they can reallocate those funds back to the 112 to just make it whole and close it out. It was closed out and then I reopened it for this purpose so we could have it separate.
And the building permit escrows, that's a pretty high balance, what, 268,000, what is that?
The reason that the building permit escrow right now is because one of our developers were required to put down a large line of credit in cash, and we are holding that, it's just being held. There has been discussion if they were able to get a bond that we would be releasing that to them, but $255,000 of that money is that line of credit specifically for one of the development projects line of credit.
That's for Zavago.
Zavago, yeah.
Yep, and they are they're at the punch list phase right now, working through punch list items with engineering and planning. And once they've met that, you'll see that on a future agenda, just as we've seen the stacks and Abavetta for accepting the final improvements. And then at that point, we would take a maintenance bond or just reduce the cash amount and withhold a remainder, however they want to handle that. But yeah, that balance is going to be disappearing very soon when we are cutting them a check.
And I've just recently billed the other two developments that we are looking to close out their final bill. I've talked to WSB and John Thames and made sure that we've gotten all the billings for those developments, and so I've sent them their final bill to close out their escrows as well, so.
Okay. Great, thanks. Any other questions for staff on?
One other thing I might make note of really quickly, in 101, on page 33 of your packet, the building and maintenance repairs is really over budget. That was actually a strategic move on my part. $70,000 of that was for windows replacement. My goal in having that money there was because I feel like some of our buildings are getting older and we're gonna need to start budgeting for larger repairs and maintenance in the future. And I thought if I could keep that money there, it would remind us in future budgeting years that we do have to increase that line item. However, when it was approved to do the windows, we had mentioned that it could come out of capital. Still a possibility if I look at 101 at the end of the year and we need that to come out of capital, I'll do that transfer. But if for some reason building permits or other permit revenue comes in higher than expected, I would rather keep the capital as is and leave that in where, in my opinion, belongs, in building maintenance and repairs. So their transfer has not been completed for that as of yet.
But it is possible that permit revenue may come in a nudge higher. We've had a lot of remodel activity this year.
Yeah, there's been a lot. So that's just $70,000 of the 101 expenses that were not budgeted, because like I said, we had planned on taking that out of the capital fund. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it and see what happens with that fund as it gets closer.
Great, Okay.
What line was the playground equipment that we were talking about earlier?
The merry-go-round or the,
Well, that Deirdre was referring to,
yes, she was talking about the one that came out directly out of 101, and that's gonna be on page 35. And she was looking at, yeah, the reference number 11.
oh, but is there a line item for that?
Yep, we put it under building and ground maintenance supplies. So towards the top there of page 35.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it came in around $6,000 for those wood chips. Like he had done one playground and then decided to just continue with that project, so it came in over budget. Now, if you'll look to parks as a whole is only at 62% for the year. So actually that line item is over, but he's running under in many other areas. And that's another reason too, that he felt like it was a good year to buy the wood chips and install them.
You got one in flags too.
Yep, that is in streets. I believe that's the one you're looking at. We replaced 20 US flags and poles for the,
4th of July Memorial.
well, it was just in general, it was for the streets, you know,
The light
the
poles.
flags, the light poles.
Yep.
The flags were starting to get,
A little worn.
yeah, worn and
occasionally take flight.
Yes. And so that was a large replacement that we did this year.
I forget, is our kind of our garden club expenses, is that just under Public Works, or is that separate?
Nope, it's in parks. I have it separated. Once again, so it'd be page 35. Under parks, it's under landscape and materials at $2,000. And they're at $2,029.94 for the year. I wanted to keep that line item completely separate in case there were any questions regards to the garden club.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. All right, any other questions for staff? Otherwise, entertain a motion on this one.
And if you have any questions after looking at it a little bit, I'm always happy to answer anything that you have.
You always are. Great.
Everybody good? I'll make a motion to receive third quarter 2024 revenues and expenditures as of September 30th, 2024, as presented.
All right, I'll second that. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, move on to item 7C, updates regarding fire department matters. This one's pretty much always on our agenda. A couple things for me, just that we have a fire advisory board meeting scheduled next Wednesday, that Councilmember Dyvek and I and Scott and Fire Chief Highland will be participating in, and as well as representatives from other cities. I think that'll probably be our last meeting of the year, if all goes well. Otherwise, in the legal case, depositions have just wound up even today with depositions of Long Lake and Orono City officials. Those depositions will be transcribed and sounds like be available probably early next week. So for folks that want to take a look at that, that's just kind of a precursor to the court trial, which is scheduled for early next year. Let's see, talked about the open house that was last week, which was a great event. Besides that, I can't think of, there just continues to be a lot of misinformation on social media and elsewhere coming out regarding fire department matters, mostly from the mayor of Orono, to be frank. So that's kind of a little side show going on. But besides that, I can't think of too much else to report unless others can. Yeah, John, anything or?
Well, again, I don't often respond to the things that the Orono mayor says, but I will to a couple of things he's said, and he said it repeatedly at the candidate forum again, and he said it at council meetings too, and I'm not sure where this comes from, but he has said that Long Lake demanded or said they had to have veto power over Orono in a fire agreement. If we were, he said this was said during negotiations, and when it was questioned to him at the coffee, he even said, "I was in the room when it was said." And I'll just state here clearly as I can, Long Lake has never made that statement, written, verbal, or any other way communicated, that Long Lake would have to have veto power over Orono. Never happened. So I don't know where he's getting that from, but, and then the other thing was, I was watching the Coffee with the Mayor, and one of the attendees asked about the Navarre area and the fire service previously, and I wish I remembered the exact quote because I don't like to misquote people, but maybe you recall, Charlie, he was asked, so the response time in Navarre was inadequate, and he says yes. And Orono has solved that, or something to that effect. And I thought back to Mike's analysis that shows that Orono has not solved that because Long Lake's response times in Navarre were faster than Orono's during the same time period of the previous year. So again, he just it's a little tiresome, and I don't know why I even worry about it. But sometimes it kind of like gets me wanting to say something, so I figured I'd say that.
Yeah, well, and you see that the narrative is, they're targeting the suburban standard. Well, you have to execute. You can't just target something, you actually have to do it. And it's, you just look at the data, you have to get 10 people there in 10 minutes, 80% of the time, and it's a staffing issue. that it's just infeasible that it can happen. So it is very frustrating, but, it is what it is. Yeah, I also am very frustrated when I watch those, but, what can you do?
Yeah, but back to the comments like Long Lake demanding to have veto power over Orono. Long Lake wanted to be in a district with Orono, with Minnetonka Beach, with Medina, where everybody would have representation on an independent fire board, but in that Orono would have the most representation and Long Lake would not be able to veto Orono. That just has never been proposed or even suggested, so.
Well, the hypocrisy is that Orono's actually themselves had veto power
Yes, right.
all along
Yeah.
in this contract and has very intentionally and
Exercise it.
repeatedly exercised it to turn down every request for capital.
Yeah.
Last couple of years, right.
And then now they use it as an excuse for our supposed inabilities, which are just false.
Right. Yeah, I was obviously part of most of those negotiations with you, John, and
Yeah.
it was not a term we used. We had a nice framework laid out with Councilmember Seals and Johnson before Councilmember Seals resigned, and that was not a term that was listed in that document that we were advocating for, and they were advocating for at the time. So don't know where that comes from. I learned just not to trust a lot that comes out of the mayor's mouth, unfortunately. But yeah, I've heard that repeated several times. So thank you for addressing that. And,
That's all I have.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other fire updates? All right. With that, we'll move on to item 8, other business. Go around, Councilmember Qualley.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay.
So no, nothing.
All right, Councilmember Feldman.
I'm good, thanks.
Councilmember Dybek.
Nothing more.
Nothing else? All right. One quick question about parking signs. So we had a discussion at the EDA about the corner lot, of course, but I was thinking as I was driving in here on Lake Street, and some know the history better than I do, but why is there no parking signs across from the funeral home on the town center side of Lake Street? It seems like such a wide street. I'm thinking as we, have more parking needs coming up, and who knows what business might go in the corner, is that something we can reevaluate, or?
I think the first step would be, and I apologize that I don't know this off the top of my head, but the first step would be to see what the code says as far as no parking zones. Now, again, I know we have to pretty much toss out the entire chapter and rewrite it. It is on the list of things to do, I promise. But I think we need to look at that first, and then I think from there it's just a matter of maybe if there's nothing in code that says one way or the other, maybe we could certainly have our city engineer take a look at it and maybe make some recommendations on signs here or no signs here, or what the case may be. I don't think you'd want parking on both sides of the road, but I know that there's a no through truck traffic sign posted there, but that's actually not supported by current code or current road design anymore. And so the trucks do still go through there. That is still a delivery ingress and egress. And as we all know, if you see a tractor trailer turn, they need some room.
Right.
So I wouldn't recommend permitting parking on both sides of the road. But I think we could certainly have our engineer take a look at that if there's nothing in code. So I think that's kind of a follow-up thing.
A lot of it, I don't think it's addressed, the code's just old at this point, because that's actually, I think, referenced as Daniel Street Extension. Because originally it went underneath the bridge,
Yeah.
or whatever, before, 2020 or 2000, so the code's old.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. I said I brought that up. It's very wide there. It's probably like 50 feet wide, and there's, whether funeral home or otherwise, you think that would have come up before.
I would suspect that part of the intent of that was to at least allow parking on the side of the funeral home. But again, if you want that parking on one side, you still have to allow for the movement of those vehicles. So yeah, I don't see why it would be possible on one side of the road, but for the safety of truck movement, I wouldn't allow parking on both.
Sure. All right. Thank you. Councilman Joyce.
Park board updates. They had a meeting last night. I'll start kind of like most, not urgent, but near term to future term planning. There is a swing chair at Nelson that needs to be replaced, so they're going to investigate that. The tree lighting event is being planned. It'll be in Holbrook Park again on the first Friday of December 6th, from 5:30 to 7:30. It's a free community event. We have great local sponsors, and it's just a really fun time. So hopefully you're around to do your usual.
Not singing, but I'll,
yeah. But there is a flyer, and Jeanette, I don't know if they've shared it with you, but we could probably start circulating that with the community, just to make them aware.
Did they happen to mention how the event permit application process is going?
Oh, have they not submitted one?
No.
Okay. Wonderful.
There had been a partial submission, but it was not a complete submission. So that was, I can follow up with the board member who was working on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I can look into it too if you want.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. And then the grants, so we didn't get them for this year, unfortunately, but they are going to try and reapply for a few still for Holbrook Park next year during that cycle. I don't know why we weren't given them. I just know we didn't. And then the last thing is there will be 2 board seats opening or open positions on the park board at the end of the year. So time to start putting out feelers for community members that want to fill those seats. And then with my term wrapping up, I know at the start of the new year we'll be assigning park board liaisons, but put that on the radar as well. That's what I've got.
Can you put a posting out for those 2 park board spots?
Mm-hmm. One's been open for a couple months, right? Yeah.
It's a difficult fill.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the New Swago residents want to be involved. I don't
That's
know.
actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Might be. Can target it to there or send it over to their management, and yeah, it's a really good idea. Okay.
I hear from them very regularly.
Yeah, like I said, they were very in tune as to what's going on.
I mean, they were the biggest showing at the tree lighting last year. They all walked over in a big mob of people. It was awesome. So.
Right. It was great. And volunteering at corn days, and yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good update. Thank you. Scott, anything?
I don't have anything.
All right, Amanda?
I was just gonna follow up with Councilmember Dybek. Last week, we were talking about banners.
Yes.
In my research on the merry-go-round, we had discovered that, I know for a while they were kind of discussing artwork banners.
Yes.
If we ended up going a route like that where there was artwork created by locals, that could also be paid for out of the gambling fund, which currently has $30,000 in it.
Really?
However, if you tend to do something not art-related, that would not qualify as a permitted expense.
Yeah, I was going to talk to our local graphic designer that we used for the previous ones, because, you know, we also have the winter coming up now, and last time we just picked some out of a catalog, and she's like, you guys, we can do better than that. So she's going to propose some winter ones too. And I said, yeah, come and bring them to our council meeting or whatever, and show us what you got. So I'm hoping that she'll do that before, you know, winter comes, because I'd like to not have to use those banners again too. But on the artwork, that's something she thought, you know, really wanted to see if we could
And to
make something like
piggyback
that
just
work.
a nudge on that, I have found a couple good examples of some art contest programs like Complete with a Form. Hey, you know, fill it out in this form. You know, it has to fit this kind of size and shape. So I found some examples to print and hang on to. I printed them very quickly just because some of them had contests ending soon. So I have some examples in a file to work on when I come up for air here in a little bit. But I was excited that charitable gambling, if we were indeed running an art contest specifically, might actually be an eligible funding source for that, so it wouldn't have to come out of somewhere else.
So the prize would be having it on a banner,
Yeah.
and that would be covered by the gambling.
Correct, the banners themselves, if there's local artwork, then it is considered a charitable.
Okay.
It is considered appropriate. One other thing I'd like to mention as far as the banners that we currently have, I was talking to, Sean about these, and there's a sizing issue he mentioned, you might know more
Yeah,
about them, and he said there was some concern, so if we did, at any point, regardless of what we order, we just need to be a little bit more careful of that, because he thinks that might have played in, that caused a hurdle.
Right.
An unnecessary
Probably
hurdle.
needed to measure them rather than go by standard
Make
size.
something,
Because
yeah.
there was something that was a little bit off.
I don't remember the details, I just wanted to make a mention of that, so. But that is all I have.
Okay, thanks, Jeanette. She got a
All elections all the time, that's pretty much it.
I just found out your question for the permit for holiday tree lighting. Thomas is gonna send her last year's so she can go off of that to help her finish it.
Yeah, I'll touch base with her.
busy. Bet.
Going to get busier. Wrapped up equipment testing today before the public accuracy test. Everything is working the way it's supposed to be. That's always, it's something, it's one of those things that it takes pretty much like 5 dedicated hours of doing nothing but, and when I do, and when it's done, I feel so rewarded and so relieved because it's like, all right, now we're good. So, Leah, looking forward to working again with a great team of election judges on November 5th. For us, it's election number 5 this year, so it's a little lather, rinse, repeat, but with more traffic. I know the judges are excited to welcome voters. And many thanks to my partner in crime here, Amanda, who will be working as an election judge for me that day
So
and
bear with
taking
me.
off her city staff member
Bear
hat.
with me.
Nice.
She was actively interested in the election process, and this proved an opportunity to do it for a community she has some connection to, so I'm super
Thank you.
excited.
Thank you.
Well,
Your
it should be fun. I'm
service.
excited.
I think I was a guinea pig for you at the
For-
primary. Yeah, we kind of tested it out and make sure I
Yes.
processed my vote and everything.
I have
Great.
such a great team, honestly, every one of them, they are fantastic. They work well together. I just feel very, very fortunate and looking forward to spending a day with them and hopefully having the opportunity to make them feel appreciated along the way, so.
And you pay them mostly in meals, right? Good lunch and a good dinner. hopefully.
Meals and.
Coffee.
Yes.
Right.
They get their personal gift, and those who have been with me a long time know that they probably have a collection of election mugs stashed away in a corner somewhere, and yeah, we just try to make sure we keep them as comfortable as we can all day long, and well-fed and without in a food coma. There's a border there, so yeah, we try to take good care of them.
And any residents can come in and vote in person between now and election day,
During
correct?
the hours that are posted on our website and on our front door, yes. And there will be no early voting this Friday. I am out of the office. I have a planned medical absence that day. So that is up on our website, that I will be out of the office and there will be no early voting this Friday. Right now, early voting every day, 9 to 2. The schedule changes up a little bit in the next few weeks because there's a couple mandatory additional days. There will be a Tuesday that I have to, be open longer. There's 2 weekends in a row I'll be working, one on a Saturday, one on both a Saturday and a Sunday. So all of that is posted. Yes.
Great.
What percentage of voters would you say vote prior to election day?
Well, right now, it's, as of what's been accepted through today, it's under 10%.
Oh, okay.
There's also mail-in
That's
though
mail,
too.
does that
That
include mail-in?
includes what's been accepted from mail-in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh.
We have, I don't know what the current count of registered voters is in Long Lake. I have a count through August. I don't have the current count through the October pre-registration deadline, which is actually today. At last count, we had about 1,250 registered voters. There's been, I think, just shy of 120 absentees accepted so far. The truth of it is that
Minnesota, early voting is still an absentee voting process. So you still have to fill out an application form. That application form has to be processed before you get a ballot. And whether it goes in envelopes or in a tabulator depends on the timing and the cycle. But the truth is election day is faster. And a lot of people know it. Poll books have been a game changer for elections for us. Because it's become such a more expedient check-in process. No more flipping the books, looking for the paper, and the poll books just get better all the time. So the process on election day actually moves a lot quicker than it used to, because now you can have 4 people checking people in at the same time instead of 4 people working with 2 paper books that they're trying to get through. So yeah, I think early voting will have its cap as it stands now because the process is not as convenient as voting on election day. I think that's going to be changing in the next 2 years.
Meaning, it's,
I think we'll see 2 years from now, we'll be switching to more of an early voting than an absentee model. We've yet to see how that's going to shake out.
I'm just not a big fan of that, because having this extended voting period, because, you know, anything could happen to candidates prior to election day, right? And so you might have cast your vote for somebody who ends up, you know.
I also struggle with it as a small city. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, on election day, I've got a group of election judges checking people in, but we're a small city. We are under 5,000 in population. We have me the rest of the time. So, you know, it's just one of those realities of a small city that it does create quite a burden, specifically on small cities in Hennepin County. The expectations are very high.
Well, yeah, I guess, so there's the burden on you. I mean, that's one aspect of it, but just in general, just the,
What's the advantage?
well, I
Unless
just
you're going
don't-
out of
I think
town.
there should be an election day. Yes, some people should do absentee balloting or ballots, but I don't know. I'm just not, I don't understand why we have to extend it to such a broad period of time.
Makes it hard for campaigning, and a lot of people have already voted, and, right. I should have mentioned that in one of my updates, that I did go have a meeting last week, meeting of mayors from Commissioner Edelson's district in Hennepin County District. I forget what the district number is, 6 or whatever.
6, yep.
6, thank you. So most of us were in attendance, and that was a topic that came up, was elections and how small cities, for example, the mayor of Greenwood said it's a lot of work for us to put on 5 elections in 1 year. And then the mayor of, Minnetonka said it, not a lot of work for our staff to do it, and, obviously the difference there.
Want to take ours?
Right.
Ask their
So
staff.
they've heard that from others, and there's maybe some talk about in the future, the Hennepin County might be willing, like what they do for assessment services, to help, smaller cities with their elections, do that themselves. So we'll see what comes of that, but that was something that the commissioner's been hearing from other cities, and other commissioners have been hearing.
Hennepin County is honestly truly terrible at taking a scaled approach to its communities. Hennepin County is so focused on the Minneapolises and Bloomingtons and Edinas of the world that I think it's hard for them to realize the Minnetonka beaches and the spring parks and the long lakes. We're an entirely different dynamic. And yet, we may not all have 100 precincts, but we are numerous in small cities. And another thing we also have in common is limited resources and limited staffing. Loretto, Independence, I mean, I could just keep going on. There's a lot of us, but there is no scaled approach in Hennepin County to rulemaking. Whether it's with the organics thing that we saw, whether it's with, elections, pretty much anything Hennepin County does, I just really feel like the county does a terrible job at taking a scaled approach that is fair to its communities. And I really hope that someday that message gets out there. I know that I voiced it a time or two. I don't think it gets where it needs to. But yeah, I think it's an issue. And I think it's also an issue of fairness. Organics was the one that I think hit me the hardest of late. we have neighborhoods with lots big enough that people can compost and, on their own, in their own property. And, to not take a scaled approach and recognize that within our communities is just wildly unfair. So, it's just my personal perspective, and if anybody from Hennepin County is watching this, they're probably screaming. But I can honestly say that after working for Hennepin County City for over 20 years, it has gotten more unfair.
And expensive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And that was brought up too, just the amount of county property taxes increasing and things like that, so I definitely heard it, but, okay.
Can I ask if, did we hear anything from that letter that was sent regarding the,
Vet council.
Oh, that's right.
Vet Council?
Urban Edge?
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't know if they actually respond to individual cities' concerns, or?
I believe that the public comment just ended late last week.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so I think if there's gonna be any response, I think it's gonna be a little while yet.
Later in the year.
I wouldn't expect one. I
don't know if I would
think
either.
that they're just going to filter in the comments.
Okay.
I don't think anything formal will be,
So if it were to change back, when would we know?
WSB would be notified of that.
Okay.
But they're
This is
making a
just
final,
preliminary.
when are they making the final
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
draft of the?
that I don't know yet. We'd have to see what Hannah has for information on that, and we can look at that.
We want to stay ahead of that. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, because what else can we do after the comment period's over? Like,
I will check in with her on that.
Right. Or if there's like in-person,
There-
open,
There may be, I got an email.
public hearing, for
I got
example.
an email, I'll look at, if it's valuable, I'll forward it.
Okay.
If it's just full of nothingness,
I think it's the same email I actually had
I
already
know,
forwarded
there
you.
may, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I did forward an email to the council with
Okay.
Imagine 2050, how to submit your personal comments.
Yes, that's
That
right.
was that
Okay,
email.
I wasn't sure if there was anything about
thanks for checking that.
public.
Okay. Okay, well, next, so we have a little anomaly going on here. We're not gonna meet for almost a month.
Wow.
Tuesday, November 5th, Election Day, of course, we were just talking about, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then our next meeting is on Tuesday, November 12th, 6:15, Long Lake Canvassing Board meeting, where we sort of certify the election results. And then we meet after that at 6:30. So as far as you know, probably no work session planned for that evening, but that's subject to change.
Subject to
I
change.
think the November 12th and 26th meetings, I would say one of them is likely to have a work session ahead of it, and the other one is likely to have a closed ZBA meeting ahead of it.
Oh, good point. Okay. All right. Stay tuned for that, but
Yes.
otherwise, council members are good for attendance on November 12th for the most part.
Would 5 o'clock be the soonest for either the EDA or work? Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Tuesday, okay.
All right, and well, so we won't meet again till after the election. It'd be interesting, and best of luck to those in the room here that are running.
You said we're
Unopposed?
November 12th, is that right?
Yes. Yes. Okay, if there's no objection, I will adjourn the meeting by general consent. Hearing none, meeting is adjourned at 7:27 PM.
I held it as long as I could.